Welcome to the dark side. So you want to know how to gaslight your narcissist. You're fed up of feeling that you're not being seen, that your actions are not being heard, that you don't feel valued. You feel like the person is taking advantage of you. You feel that you deserve more. You want more. You're asking for more, yet the person is not really hearing you out. And you have come to the point where you think that right now you'll try anything. So what have you, this is probably something that you typed into YouTube, how to gaslight a narcissist, or how to take my revenge of my narcissist. So I want to do this video to explain to you the ethically moral way to gaslight your narcissist, because yes, it is possible, and that does not mean that you become a gaslighter. It just means that you will be preserving your mental health, and the best part, it will be as if you are gaslighting your narcissist and give them a bit of a taste of their own medicine. So first of all, if you've just stumbled upon this video and you have no idea who this person is rambling, my name is Olympia, and with my studies in cognitive neuroscience and art history, what I like to do, I like to dissect that pretty little brain of yours to see what makes you tick, but also makes you talk. So make sure to smash the subscribe button and ring that bell for your weekly Thursday videos. And let's start. First of all, welcome back. If you are new to my channel, welcome to the G-Spot, aka the gaslighting spot. This is a safe place where we talk about gaslighting, emotional abuse, and in this case, visiting the dark side by seeing how to gaslight your narcissist. So let's start. Now, if you haven't heard of this method, the number one way to gaslight your narcissist is called the gray rock method. Ironically, this method is reserved for you to maintain your mental health and sanity when you are forced to deal with a gaslighter. And when I say force, I mean sometimes, unfortunately, not everyone has the luxury per se to completely cut off their abuser. Sometimes if there are, for example, kids in the middle, you have to share custody, and therefore you must come into contact with that person, with that gaslighter. So the gray rocking method means that you make yourself utterly boring. Basically like a gray person, no makeup, ignore all this. You very, very monotonous. You answer in monosyllables, yes, no, I don't know, maybe. You become so utterly boring that the person, the abuser, has nothing to feed off of. So the thing with narcissists, gaslighters, emotional abusers, is that they need some kind of reaction, some kind of emotional handle in order to grab onto and lash out on you, in order to use against you. If that's your vulnerability, if that's your anger, if that's your happiness, they need some kind of reaction from you in order for them to continue the abuse. So if you start responding to them, so let's say they start shouting at you and saying that you're stupid. You always say the most dumbest things I've ever heard. And if you respond to them, okay, and just leave it like that, I promise you that will drive your gaslighter crazy, because they will not know how to take it to the next step. They will not know if it has affected you, if it has upset you, how they're going to use it in the future. Like, you are basically throwing them the major curveball. Gray rocking is basically the middle finger for gaslighters and narcissists. It is the ultimate tool as a combat for emotional abuse, gaslighting, narcissism, etc. Another part of gray rocking is to be factual. Now, obviously, this is really hard to do. I mean, even the emotion wise, if you're having someone that's yelling at you, especially if it's someone that you love, saying that you're stupid, you're dumb, obviously your ego will kick in at that moment and you want to defend yourself, but you're trying to and look at the big picture. If you are looking to gaslight your narcissist, gaslight your gaslighter, This is an effective method, like it or not. So the second part of the gray rocking is the be factual method, which includes the not showing any emotion, meaning that whatever the way you respond to is kind of like the way a robot would respond. So you avoid saying personal opinions. You avoid showing a lot of emotions. You kind of just respond in, imagine if you were talking to Siri or Alexa from Google. That robotic, monotone voice. A voice that doesn't really have a lot of humor, a voice that doesn't show empathy, does not, will not laugh at your jokes, will just kind of do what you're asked to do. That doesn't really fall into the analogy, but at the part of being robotic and being monotonous and not showing any emotion, that is a huge middle finger for a narcissist. And ironically, this is actually, in my opinion, an ethically moral way to gaslight someone. Now, obviously, if you want to gaslight someone, I've done a video above on how to gaslight someone. I do it as a way to show you the dark side and what not to avoid. What to avoid and how to identify the signs by being the gaslighter themselves. But if you are acknowledging that you are being gaslighted, if you're acknowledging that you're being emotionally abused, most likely you have to be the bigger person, and you can't resort to tactics such as making them feel crazy. First of all, it's going to be very hard because a gaslighter cannot easily be turned into a gaslightee because they know what they're doing, and a narcissist the same. Their arrogance, their ego, their inflated sense of self, their need for validation, all those things will avoid them being able to be gaslighted. But showing the narcissist that they don't have effect on you by doing, for example, like what I said, the gray rocking method, I mean, that will drive them crazy. And I've also created a guide for you guys called the G-Spot Guide. It's all the gaslighting signs and the most common gaslighting phrases. That way you can go through that guide. I will link it below. It's at my website. That way you can go through that guide. It's completely free, and you can see how those phrases fall into your relationship, and from then on prepare yourself, because sometimes it's all about preparation. And from then on prepare yourself onto how to deal every time you hear those phrases. Another way to gaslight your gaslighter is saying no. Narcissists and gaslighters are very accustomed to you obeying their every wish. They're very accustomed to manipulating you and getting you to do their bidding. And by saying no, and then if they're lashing out, just get this stone cold wall expression and use the gray rocking method, the factual part, that will just throw off the narcissist to such an extent they won't even know how to deal with a situation. It's pretty funny. I've actually tried this on one of my exes, and I'm a huge nerd. So I wrote a lot of people's theses, and I had written one of my ex's theses, and actually he almost got published. Obviously I never got any of the credit, but when he asked me to do a presentation for that thesis, I said no. And that just threw him off, because he was like, well, you wrote the thesis, can't you also do the presentation? It will only take a few minutes. Why can't you do this for me? I do everything for you. I do anything you ask. By the way, bullshit. But he started using the guilt tripping technique, which is very popular among narcissists and gaslighters, to try and convince me to do this thesis, to do this presentation for the thesis. And he was like, well, you're the one that wrote it, so you're the one that should be doing the presentation, which that even mind blew me even more, because I was never required to do his own homework. He was a big boy. He should be able to write his own thesis. However, because of the university I went to, I had more access to case studies on what he was doing. So I thought, me being a good person, I was like, okay, I'll help you out and I'll write your thesis. I like it anyways. But when he actually kind of said that I had to do the presentation just because I had done the thesis and thanked me nowhere in the thesis, and he literally said, I would like to thank all friends and family, and didn't even think to mention his girlfriend, who was the one that wrote the entire thing. that kind of flipped a switch. So I tried the technique of saying no. And when the person started spiraling down, one of my exes started spiraling down and saying that, you have to do it like I said, I used facts. I said, this is not my thesis. I helped you to write it. I have a 35-page thesis that you are currently going to be published on, and I think that you can deal with the presentation, and it's not my responsibility. I did it because I love you, but unfortunately right now I do not have the time. And using logic and reminding them that what you did was actually a selfless act and they need to acknowledge it and get their shit together can be a huge wake-up call. Obviously there'll be resistance when it comes to that, but that really helped in terms of gaslighting my narcissist, because they suddenly got a taste of their own medicine, and that was, you can't manipulate everyone to do everything to your bidding. There is a moment where someone is going to say no, and no, when they're asking you to do something, can be the ultimate form of gaslighting. It's a bit complex since we're using the moral way to revenge, per se, your narcissist, but by avoiding doing what they want and using logic to explain why you don't want to do what they want can help you bring you some mental clarity, per se. And this, ironically, I do to one of my friends. I wouldn't call her a narcissist. She's definitely not a gaslighter, and I wouldn't call her a narcissist, but she does have a certain arrogance and kind of entitled sense and grandiose sense of self. Like, she always needs to be right. She always needs to prove her point. She has to create like an entire argument and structure it in a way that she will point to a painstakingly degree of how wrong you are. So I usually respond, because I'm also a very competitive person, and I like to get my point across. I don't enforce my opinion, but I like to clarify exactly what I mean and of course why I disagree. Not saying that the other person is wrong. So that is an important difference, I believe, in my character. I will never try and convince someone they are wrong. So by responding to your gaslighter narcissist, things such as, let's agree that we disagree, or different strokes for different folks, that will drive them nuts, because the narcissist fuels and needs that validation. They cannot survive. That's one of the reasons, unfortunately, they've targeted you as a victim. They will suck every ounce of energy that you have inside of you to get that validation and that attention that they need to survive. That's how their psychology thrives. That is their defense mechanism. So by telling them like very neutral, almost passive aggressive statements such as, let's agree that we disagree, different strokes for different folks, that could drive them crazy. And it would also, again, give them a taste of their own medicine. And in some way, it ethically allows you to gaslight your gaslighter or your narcissist. I use these interchangeably, not that they're the same, it's just that a lot of the effects they have are similar. The thing is, guys, here, we're aiming towards getting some mental clarity, mental peace, trying to regain control of your life and not of the gaslighter themselves. Obviously, this is not a long-term solution, since if you are in that kind of relationship, you don't deserve to be in that kind of relationship. You wouldn't want your children to be treated that way. So long-term, gaslighting your narcissist is not a healthy way to continue establishing a healthy relationship. But I just wanted to give you these few tips just as a start, and to answer your question, how to gaslight the narcissist. So that is my video on how to gaslight a narcissist. Let me know in the comments below if you have any further suggestions, if there's something that you tried that gave you some mental clarity. Like I said, make sure to check out my website below. You can get your free guide. And then also I have created a Facebook group. It's called the G-Spot, aka the Gaslighting Spot, and that's just a place where we connect. We share we share thoughts, maybe find some commonalities in our stories, But even just motivational stuff that keeps you going through the day when you're having like a bad time with your gaslighter. If you haven't already, make sure to smash the subscribe button and ring that bell for your weekly Thursday videos. But most importantly, guys, share this video with someone who needs to know how to gaslight their narcissist, how to survive in an emotionally abusive relationship until they're ready to go, and how to gain that mental clarity and mental peace that they are desperately seeking. And that's it, folks.